Hey Tony, it's Wednesday. As I told you yesterday, it just wasn't going to work yesterday for me to do the video, so I'm doing it today. So first off, to answer your question of the week. Well, first off, I actually want to say that was a really thoughtful video. That I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I think that was a really good video, Tony. But what I want to first off, I want to answer your question, and I realize I need to shave. But so I think one of my favorite representations of politics and pop culture, I think, is actually the Hunger Games, and let me explain why. So obviously, like, a big part of the plot of the Hunger Games is, pushing the love story between, the not real love story between Katniss and Peeta, to basically, like, distract from the actual real politics going on. And I think that echoed really well in the real world discussions, in which you look at, like, all the message boards. What they actually talk about was like, oh, are you team Peeta or are you team Gale, without going through the whole process of, like, this is what the book was about, how these things distract from the actual important things going on. And I think, like, that was a fun situation in which, well, maybe not fun, but that's an interesting situation in which life reflected art. And I think it's one that I think, didn't quite understand just, sorry, there a mosquito was flying around, don't understand just how close they were to getting the point and then completely missed it. Actually, what I want to talk about this week is actually somewhat of a addendum to your video as well, which is I want to talk about particularly, like, politics in a show that I just started watching called Black Mirror. Black Mirror's been on Netflix for probably about 9 years, I think. 10 years, so it's been on the show, been on this the service for a while. But basically, like, what it is now I've only seen about 4 episodes, but what it is basically, like, it takes, okay, technology has gone too far, and this is how, this is how people kind of interact with it. And every episode is a standalone episode that all have, different stories, different plots. It's an anthology series. And there have been a couple, and I've only watched about 4 episodes, but I think each one was really good in its own way. And apparently there's an episode that just came out recently that I've not watched yet, but I kind of want to talk about, like, what I've read about it and how I think it really pushes a little too close to home. I actually think a lot of the show really does. There's, like, one of the episodes I watched was Shut Up and Dance, which is basically like, okay, these hackers got compromising information about these people and forced them to do, acts of crime and violence, or else they would have released it, which really echoes, like, sextortion, blackmail that you see all the time. And it was a really interesting take, because I'm not going to spoil the end, but it's a really good show. I'm not going to spoil the end of it, but you kind of realize that, oh, maybe were the hackers in the right or were the hackers in the wrong? And it doesn't approach that part, but it kind of leaves that thought out there for you, which I really appreciate. But one of the more recent episodes that came out fairly recently was one that really kind of, like, took subscription services to, I think, the logical conclusion. Now, again, I have not watched this episode, but I have read about it and read, like, what the the high concept of it is. So I don't know the ending, but at least I know, like, the idea and like the message of it. Basically, what that episode is a happy young couple are madly in love, but the wife starts dealing with, like, starts dealing with, like, serious medical issues and gets put into a coma. And what the husband does is there's a new service that basically, like, lets you, like, kind of upload your mind into a service where you can still interact and things like that. But what the show does, and again, this is what I've read about it, is that things keep escalating, and, oh, now you have to pay for this service. Oh, now you have, like, okay, now you're reading off ads within this virtual world, but we have this extra subscription service that you can pay for, and you won't hear the ads anymore. And it kind of keeps going and going and going to its logical conclusion with late stage capitalism, in which, like, husband loses his job, but the service keeps getting more and more expensive as you're getting less and less for your money, until in the end it's basically like he has no money, he's completely in debt, and they're basically like, well, we can't do anything anymore for you. And I think that really rings true for late stage capitalism. I mean, how close are we to a future in which you have to pay a subscription service for airbags in your car, or you have to pay a subscription service for air conditioning, or you have to pay a subscription service for, water when you go to, like, the store or something like that. And or in order to have fresh air, you need to pay an extra fee to basically be in this this fresh air arboretum. And I think we are dangerously close to the solution. Now, obviously, that is escalated further than we are right now, but you're already starting to see a lot of companies who are starting to do that. Like, and then I can't remember what car service it is, but they actually like make you have to start paying a subscription service for extra data for the vehicle, or to increase the lifestyle that you have within the vehicle. And late stage capitalism is all about essentially getting blood from a stone. It's about soaking out every single bit of wealth you can to give that to the few. And I really think Black Mirror did a really great job of approaching that. And it hits really close to home. Like, the episodes that I've watched so far was that Show Up and Dance, which, we already see a lot of like hacktivist groups or blackmailers who make people do these crazy acts, or else their compromising information gets released. Or another one that I watched, which was called Playtest, which is a great episode. It was really scary. Like, that was actually one of the legitimately like more horror-inspired episodes. A lot of the show was kind of like technological concerns, but that episode really went into full horror, because the theory, like the core concept of it, was that this American tourist was out of money and ended up doing some playtesting for this big video game company, in which they actually end up like putting they call it the mushroom, but they put something in your brain that connects to your spinal cord, into your brain, that basically sets up this scary game with what your legitimate fears are. And it really it kind of, when you're watching it, we're like, oh, we're actually not, again, we're not far from that point. But also you have a situation where these companies are, using labor that doesn't really have a lot of doesn't really have any core resources around them. So then if anything happens to them, no one's around to basically, tell the authorities or things like that. And I think that is also becoming very close to real, because like NDAs are crazy things, and like human trials can be crazy as well. And I think, again, Black Mirror takes everything to like the 10th degree of it, but I think it really is a telling look at how technology impacts us, and how we impact technology, and how we interact with it. So Tony, my question for you is, have you ever watched Black Mirror? And if you have, what's some of the episodes that you really enjoyed that you've watched? Tony, I'll see you on Friday. Later, bro.